Thank you for doing this. And I want to first congratulate you on what 14th album, Halo. And kind of it's been getting a lot of success, right? It got third in Germany and number one in Finland in the charts. You guys have been doing really well. Do you ever get used to the feeling the immense love that you get from fans that they have for this band? Do you ever get used to that?
Uh, no, I don't think. I think the chart entries goes like that. I remember like first album which made it to number one in Finland was like I think it was Eclipse back in the days, and that felt like all right, yes, like big thing. And but I have to admit that nowadays, if it not going to number one, then you feel like a little bit like okay, it's not good. But if it goes, you're like okay, good. It it doesn't feel the same anymore, but it's different with like response from the fans, and that's what you always want to like when you're doing the album. At first, you're thinking to do it to yourself at first place, and if you're satisfied it and you like it, then you feel like very like confident of that. But just a few days before the album will be released, you start to like be a little bit nervous, like what other people is it going to be like? Okay, is it that good? Like you start to think like strange things, and so it's the biggest like response what I'm waiting for, and that's like the main response from the fans, which comes in not chart entries, but
what people say.
Yeah, of course, it's important that our fans are liking it as well as we do. So
it's really interesting to see such a veteran band, and it still affects you. Still get the butterflies before releasing an album of not knowing how people will respond. Of course, it's your baby, and now you're releasing it to the world so that everybody can hear.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's something like it's of course it affects like your next 3 years, of course, as well. Like if everybody thinks it's totally crap, then you have to deal with that like 3 years or with that, and like this. But yeah, in that sense, it's of course important.
And I got to be honest, I'm a hardcore metalhead. I love all genres of heavy metal, and I've grown up with it with my brothers and my cousins. But for some reason, for a very long time, Amorphis escaped my grasp for whatever reason. And I've only recently discovered you guys and started getting into you and enjoying it based on people, actually, your fans recommending for me to check it out. And I've kind of fell in love with the band, what you guys stand for. And the name Amorphis, I don't think you could have picked a better name for the band, no shape or form, because your fans have come to expect from Amorphis to always switch things up. You never do the same thing twice, at least from what I've heard. Is there ever like a pressure or a feeling that you might repeat yourself or stagnate in some kind of way being so long in the game?
Oh, yes and no, but we tried not to think about it too much, because like in the early days, because we were young and having all the new influences coming like all the time, so our like changes were quite radical, of course. And at some point we wanted to be like, okay, we do this kind of psychedelic rock, and let's forget the double bass drums and things like this. And I don't miss those days, but I think it was important to us to try different paths, because that's why we're like the Amorphis today. Like of course it affects to that, and so we don't try to change, or that's not our goal. We are just trying to we always like start from the clean table, or trying to start when composing new stuff, and we'll see like what it's gonna be sound like. We never know it like beforehand, so it's not like we are trying to do anything. It's like natural progression. So I still feel like it's different songs, so they're not similar. And, some small things, but I think we have found like certain place where Amorphis is good to be
like a groove. Yeah,
and still we have like free hands to try whatever we want, but I think we have been like quite satisfied in a way where we are musically nowadays. But it doesn't mean that we will not gonna do any radical solutions in the future. So never know.
It makes sense to me listening to music. I always felt it never felt forced, like, oh, we need to do something different because people haven't heard this yet. To me also actually felt quite natural. And you kind of even jumped ahead. I was going to say that I don't think Amorphis ever lost its death metal roots, but instead of being at the forefront of the band, it became one of the tools that you use in song composition now, out of many tools that you use. And that's kind of how I've always saw it. And I always wondered, uh, as a fan, like you kind of explained it also as like the band's evolution. You said it was very natural, right? It was never a conscious decision to go from what was, I would say, a more traditional kind of doom death metal band into more melodic progressive rock elements. And with Tomi's vocals, both having very nice, clean vocals, which I think are awesome, and his growls, which are really there. So it's just all, like I said, it was all natural evolution.
Yeah, it's like when we started the band, we were like 17 years old, and so it's natural at first to be like
Hardcore.
Like this. And some of the bands like who were playing at the same time when we started, they broke up when they started to listen to different kind of music, or they just kept going to play, but they didn't have the like fresh spirit or right kind of spirit to their music anymore, so they split up. So I think we made the decision in early days that we take the influences and we have to make whatever we want to, and that's like most important, because it have to be like something you enjoy and not to do it just for like you have to. I mean, I'm pretty sure that AC/DC loves what they're doing, but it's their thing. But some of the bands, I think it's good to have some kind of evolution and change, but not with every band. I think AC/DC is perfect how it is.
And I think it's a natural understanding, right? When you change things and when things evolve, that it's naturally some people fall off because it's no longer what they want to hear, but also new fans come along to check out what this band has become, and then they dive into your discography from the past and really just get to discover a band of many shapes.
Yeah, that's true. So we were lucky to have this name because we didn't plan it to go that way either.
It's funny the way it works out, right? It just kind of, I think it perfectly describes what you guys are all about. And Halo being, I think, a heavier album than Queen of Time. For me, again, as a new fan, I thought it was awesome from beginning to the end. To me, I really loved On the Dark Waters and War. Like if I had to pick two standout songs, to me, I just loved like the compositions in those songs. But I kind of got a feeling what you were saying here on this particular question. But you ever thought about going to like those more death metal roots for an album or certain songs to really go heavy again, or you just kind of enjoy this more melodic form that band has taken?
I did think we would like in certain way, but I know if some of us like are bringing new composition to the rehearsing place that I have, this is like old school death metal song. The choices are like Jens is going to be like drop it from the album because it's so different than the other songs, or we start to build it together and it becomes melodic. Like it just happens, because I think we all have like our place in the soundscape, whatever. But I know beforehand, if I write the song, I know beforehand that Santeri is going to play something like this, and Esa is going to play something like this. So it's easy as well, like to do songs when you know other players so well that you know that they will bring some stuff which I cannot bring to the table anyway. So if we would do something like old school death metal album someday, that would be like totally against what we are like normally doing the albums, to put it like naturally. But I think it's our thing. We also love to have it like melodic, and we can have like some project bands which are playing like just death metal or some primitive stuff. So, and I think we all would love to play that kind of stuff, but maybe not with Amorphis. We're not ready to. to try things like just because we should
Yeah,
try.
yeah. You would want to have a side project where it makes more sense to do that than with Amorphis. Like it kind of, you also even answered a question that I would ask is the idea of, it seems like a very collaborative process. And you mentioned everybody puts in and chips in their little thing, which obviously everybody has different avenues they come from to shape this band, what is Amorphis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I asked this question of Tomas from Wolfheart, and I would love to hear your approach as well as a Finnish band. Is what is in Finnish water that has produced so many amazing bands?
I have no idea. The common cliche is that it's so dark and long winters, so youngsters don't have anything to do except playing a band or form the band. But I don't know. It wasn't like that in like late 80s. I think it was like Sweden, which comes first with death metal thing, and Finland was like not at that time. There wasn't that many things happening, but I think when some of the Finnish bands started to get some success overall, I think, I mean overseas and stuff, I think like young people started to think that okay, it's possible that there can be like good music come from Finland. And they tried to or realized it that it's better to be like original and unique kind of sounding band than trying to plagiate other bands, your idols, or for example. So I think that's the main thing, that trying to be like a unique sounding band.
Scandinavia in general, I think, is one of the major pillars in heavy metal overall. You know, Norway, Sweden, obviously, even including countries like Denmark, Finland. You all offer something different and really evolve the heavy metal genre, in my opinion. Like when we think about Finnish metal, I can automatically in my ears, in my eyes, picture the band Insomnium, Amorphis, Wolfheart, Dawn of Solace. There's just this specific sound that is very unique to the region. Then you go to Gothenburg and Sweden. You've all developed your sounds. They become so prominent in the heavy metal community that more so than even United States, where I'm from, or my homeland, Russia, which doesn't have a particular sound.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. When we started, it was like Morbid Angel from Florida. Which were like the main influences at first, and of course the Carcass from England. So I think you have to have like first. I know they weren't the first, but first, like, which is like carrying the flag, and then other trying to do with those like elements their own thing, and it starts to flow there and there. The new music styles, which happened with death metal as well. I mean, there is a lot of different, very different kind of bands comparing each others, and they're still like labeled as some death metal or something. But it's a good thing. I mean, if there would be 1,000 times who are trying to make Altars of Madness again and again, it would be very boring.
Well, I remember when Chuck Schunder introduced the Symbolic and Sounds of Perseverance, there were some hardcore guys who were so against it because he was making it more melodic and beautiful, I would say, in many ways. And I agree with you. It was just a natural evolution for it to change and become this thing that will just keep evolving, keep changing and progressing.
Yeah. Well, that's what music should be about. Like, it shouldn't be like some product that it just stays the same. And well, that's what I think. And of course, you might lose some old fans, but mainly if I'm thinking of Amorphis fans, I think they can expect a little bit more from us than like normally from band, because I think we have more freedom to try things.
100% agree. If I ever said anything remotely that would sound like criticism whenever I would do a reaction, every single fan from Amorphis would step in. Hey, it's like they've always experimented, they've always done this, and then they would put me back in my place. I was just like, oh, sorry guys, that's not what I meant. And I would say is actually you even stepped in again to the next question I was going to ask, is that you guys are one of the more successful extreme metal acts, I would say. And I have a question of this idea of metal musicians, for some reason, see a path of success as somehow losing integrity. There's this kind of mentality. And from a band that's kept its integrity, as well as in its music writing and expression, and also you guys turned your passion for love for music into something that also can feed you. What would you say to starting bands who kind of create these self-imposed restrictions on themselves because thinking that, oh, success can't, like, they don't particularly want to be successful, and that somehow they would lose some kind of an element in that process?
Well, that's what we were thinking when we started, I guess. But it was more like we didn't believe that we could even get a record label or record deal or something, and we didn't have like that confidence. But so what was left was like that we love to make shows, we love to make music, and it just was fun. And at some point, of course, when you start to tour and you realize that there is certain things you should do like professionally if you want this to continue, because I don't know if we probably would do this as hobby in this age, maybe if we would like have a like normal jobs or something, but if you want to continue this to make it like your job at the same time and still it doesn't feel like job, then you have to do some certain like things, like you have to put out the records in like after 2-3 years, so you can go to tours, and you have to handle them professionally, of course. And it's just the world is like working that way. So
that's how it works, basically, right?
And we haven't ever been like a very successful, I don't think so. So we haven't been like in very up, and then we could like I mean, what I'm trying to say, it's just we have been like in the middle somewhere, and I think it's good to us, like it's not going that fast down, and it's more satisfying to trying to be like in the same level or going a little bit up or something. But that's not our goal at this point. We are just happy that we can keep this going after all these years, and and we still are able to focus it 100%.
It just breaks my heart whenever I see. I've interviewed a new band out of Finland, Kauta, and I would hear some things from them, and I feel like a person who just has their own experiences. They were almost putting themselves in a box, like, oh, if this doesn't happen, it's like, but no, you also have to consciously work on it for it to become something, right? You have to dream a little bit and fantasize of it happening for you at some shape or form, because then you kind of, I feel like you've closed yourself in a box that you might never get out of. And I feel like
to pick you, so if you're just in there, like
I
agree.
And I would actually like to ask about your taste in music. Has there been anything album-wise or band-wise, perhaps in the recent months or years, that kind of blew your mind? You're like, whoa, I haven't heard something like this before. I really did just something you enjoyed.
What that could be? Of course, I can't remember now any new bands. I always get some suggestions, but now I cannot remember. Well, I check like few bands every time they are putting some new album out, like Mastodon or bands like this. But I think I've been focused last year like so much doing own music, like own project besides the Amorphis record as well. So I haven't actually listened that much music.
Yeah. I would imagine so. Maybe there's a feeling that you might even get tired of music because you're just producing your own for so long and working on it for so long. You almost need like a break from it, right?
Well, yeah. Sometimes it's not like if you feel like if you're on tour, like after, if you have like 30 gigs in a row, and after show you're going to the bus bunk, and you don't necessarily put some like metal to your ears, like you like losing your mind, so when your ears are ringing. And so sometimes if I listen to music on the like on tours or something, it's totally opposite to metal music, like more like some Pink Floyd, Cardigans kind of stuff. Or then I just listen some book or something nowadays.
Pink
Or
Floyd is a
watching
good
movie.
choice.
But you know it when it happens. Like I always have this certain moment when I feel like, okay, now I need to listen some good music, and then it starts, and it can continue like 2 years in a row. And I just listen all the time music, and but if I feel like music doesn't do the thing for me, then it's better. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't. It's just when you're so focused to make your like own music,
Yeah.
so it eats that.
I would imagine though, listening to especially some younger bands who are creating things perhaps outside of the realm what a lot of people have heard can also be inspirational. With a band, for example, picking a lot of steam is a Bellicore from Australia, which is inspired by Amorphis and Insomnium and Gothenburg sounds of kind of melodic death metal, and you can hear it in their music, their love for you and the love for all the other bands, also doing it differently. I would imagine for you to hear something like that could be also inspirational. It's like, well, we can take it into even directions we haven't considered.
Yeah, that's true, and that's why I think the Spotify and internet is kind of, I don't say Spotify, but nowadays it's easy if you want to look for some certain stuff, but of course there is too much stuff as well at the same time. So if you know what you're looking for, it's easier to find them just like by accident.
Would you say ultimately the internet age, because you've been there for the physical era and now kind of the mixed era, and now it's becoming predominantly, I would say, streaming. Do you ultimately find the streaming to be overall beneficial for you guys, or it's just it has put like a big kind of effect, a negative effect on music in general?
Well, for the artist, for sure, of course, like it's easier. It's not that easy to like, no matter how popular the album will be, you don't necessarily get that like that much. I mean, you have to think of like the studio budget in the end. You have to like, we have been lucky. We have always put the money we get advance. We put it to studio, and it's enough. But like younger bands, I think, who sell not selling that much and making money that much, it's not easy to like having tight budgets, because of course you want to do something like very perfectly, and then time is running out, and it's, I don't know what I'm actually going to say. Something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I grew up when we started like tape trading, and that was the internet at the time, and I loved it. It was like totally new world to like 16, 17 years old.
Yeah, I was in the documentaries, you would see Sepultura and Creator would send tapes to each other to hear the different sounds from different countries, to just hear what was out there. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And still have like I meet people and know people from bands who are still existing, and like Fernando of Moonspell, we have been like writing to each other's like in like 32 years ago, and sending demos, and a lot of like this kind of things. So I think that was like coolest thing ever, I think.
I agree.
And of course, I don't want to complain about the like these days internet and streaming, because it is what it is, and it's make no sense to complain. Things are changing, but yeah, I kind of miss those days as well, when you went to record shop and, oh, this is cool cover.
We had to buy albums in Russia from the black market because Western music wasn't allowed. We loved Western culture so much. I mean, that's why I'm in New York now. And we had to like buy cover pick out, just like you said, and take a chance on it. The last question I'll ask you is, do you ever look back at your Violent Solution and Abhorrence days, and reminisce about those days? And specifically, I'm interested in Violent Solutions because it was a thrash metal band, and I absolutely love thrash metal.
Well, yeah. It's not always easy to listen to something like you have made like when you were 15. But nowadays I listen it more like nostalgic way, like okay, we were young and it sounds great, yeah, and not anymore more like in a way that you are just thinking of like what you could do better or differently, but yeah, it's something like you have, it's your past, so should be proud of that.
You should be proud of that. And the last word, I want to leave it up to you and kind of for the fans and any fan of Amorphis watching it, anything you would like to say, I would like to leave the last word to you.
Well, thanks for this interview and hope to see you in our upcoming tour. We should start in 1 month and we will be 5 weeks all across the North American soil. So hope to see you all there. We've been missing like hell the tours and playing live, so gonna be good.
Thank you very much, sir. You're a true gentleman. I really appreciate the interview.
Hey, thank you.
Take care.